Hey guys, what's up? It's Matt Hancock. It is the RYLA Routine. We're back. It's 2024, and I have no better person that I could think of to kick off 2024 than Mike Addington. Mike, Miami, Oklahoma, Rotarian extraordinaire. How are you, buddy?
I'm great, man. Good to hear from you tonight, and thank you so much for bringing me on here, man. I just hope I can share some excitement with some other clubs, and hopefully they can follow my lead here.
Yeah, I hear that. So I start with everybody, and we start kind of, talking about, short talk and everything else. But I am so excited to have you. I know it's cold outside, and we're well past October. We talk about you're one of the people that I think if I said, hey, we're gonna have 4 RYLAs a year, you'd have me kids every single time. I wouldn't have to worry about where we were gonna get kids. I don't want four. First and foremost, John Raines at the downtown club the other day was like, "Man, can we just have two every year?" I said, "John, that'd be great." I said, "Where's the paycheck coming from, though? Because it's not a light switch, but it may look like it at times. It's a lot of people
Absolutely.
it's a lot of people that make this thing happen. And Mike, I definitely as a friend and as a Rotarian, I consider you one of those people that make this thing go round. So tell us right off the jump, man. How did you get to Rotary? How did you get to the Rotary Club of Miami, and then how did you find out about RYLA?
All right. So in 2010, June of 2010, I moved my family to Miami, Oklahoma, and the local Ford dealership manager said, "Hey, I need you to come with lunch with me on Tuesday." And I had some previous experience with Rotary in Mount Pleasant, Texas, and McPherson, Kansas. But I hadn't been in it for a while because the McPherson, Kansas was a check writing club, not an active club, and I wanted to be active. So I go to the meeting from 2010 to 2012. I'm a Rotarian eating lunch every week, not really knowing what Rotary is, what Rotary does, or why I'm even a Rotarian other than I'm trying to build business for my business.
Sure.
And in 2012, my son got recruited to go to Camp Enterprise to the Tulsa Rotary Club. He went, he came back, and they invited the parents to come to a meeting in Tulsa to hear about the projects they did and the fun that they had and all that. And so we went, and then we got a bulletin in our club every week. They had different committees on it, and scholarship committee and other things. And I saw that we had a RYLA committee, so I asked the RYLA committee chair. I said, "What is this RYLA camp that you're doing?" And he goes, "Well, it's a 4-day leadership outside of Tahlequah. I can't ever get any kids to go." And I said, "Well, could I join that committee with you? Can I help you with it?" He said, "Man, you can have it. I've had it for a long time. I'm done with it." He goes, "Good luck." And so I found
What year?
out
What year did you say that was?
that was 2013,
Gotcha. Okay.
or that was right after 2012, actually. And then I found out that the next RYLA was in April of 2013.
Okay.
So I contacted this lady named Tracy Longcrier at Miami High School, just a great lady. I said, "Could you find me 4 kids to go to this camp called RYLA?" She says, "I haven't found any kids for that camp in probably 15 years.
Oh wow.
I said, "Can you find me 4?" And our club at that time was in the red. We didn't have enough money. And I asked my board, "Can we find $1,200 to send 4 kids?" They said, "We'll find it. We don't know where it's going to come from, but we will." So they did find me 4 kids. And I said, "Well, if I'm going to send these kids to this camp, I want to be a chaperone to figure out what we do and why we do it and why I'm sending kids there."
Sure.
So I come to camp as a chaperone the first time I sent kids there. And be real honest with you, I was just blown away. I mean, it was, I never heard someone like Ron Harris bring that much out of kids. And to see the transformation in my kids. And there was a defining moment for me in 2013 that probably hooked me to RYLA. One of the young ladies that I took to RYLA, she wasn't the smallest girl at camp. She probably wasn't the biggest girl at camp, but she thought she was the biggest girl at camp. And when we got to the wall, she was standing way back by a tree in the back and just didn't want to do it. "They can't lift me, Mike." And I was new. It's my first year there. I said, "Matt, this girl don't want to go over the wall. They don't think she can lift her." He said, "Man, just get her up there and have her spot for everybody else, and we'll just keep pushing her to the front." Well, I get her up there and just tell her, "Hey, we need you to help spot. The crowd's getting small. I need you to help spot." And so she comes up there and agrees to spot. and you gather up every camper that had been over the wall and you brought them back behind the group and start chanting her name. And she finally gets to the front of the wall. I said, let's get you over the wall. She said, I can't do it. I said, how about I go up top and I pull you over the wall? She goes, you go up top, I'll go over the wall. So I go up top, and at that time we had football players at RYLA. And we had 4 big football players there, and there's no way we were not going to get her over the wall. And so I will go up top, and then we pull her over the wall, and I see the tears come out of her eyes of a wall inside her that come down. And I just said to myself, you know, what we did here was an amazing thing, and this is an amazing young lady, and to see her overcome her fear of that was well worth any time I spent there.
Well, I'm a numbers guy, right? I mean, I'm a numbers guy by heart. And you said something there that early on that I preach about quite a bit, and it's never a money problem. And I think it's vision, right? And so I think what I know about Mike is Mike came to camp, Mike saw camp, and now, I know you're out there fundraising on your own. You're not relying on the club to come up with it. You're figuring it out. If that's going and hitting up private companies, if that's going and having your sweetheart dinner and things like that. When you look at your time, if you first came in 2013, through with COVID, there's a couple years where there's 2 in there. How many total camps have you chaperoned?
I've chaperoned 9, and I've sent kids to 10. I missed 2014.
Right. Okay.
2014, my assistant manager quit the week before RYLA.
Yeah.
I transported kids back and forth, and I had them come talk to the club. But everything changed for me in 2015. Had a president, Mark Folks, who caught the vision of RYLA with me. And we did a couple things that year. We added our RYLA Run, which is a $20,000 a year fundraiser that we didn't have before. And we changed our auction from a noon Rotarian auction to a night public auction.
Yeah.
He said, at this auction, I want you to give a 5-minute speech about RYLA and ask for $300 donations to help fund kids. So we did that, and we got $2,700 in about 10 minutes.
Wow.
So I went from sending 4 kids, which I did in 2014, to being able to send 13 in 2015. And I got 12 of the 13 to go. I had 13 booked and 1 backed out the last minute. So I sent 12 in 2015. And then of those 12 I sent in 2015, 4 of them come back and started the Miami Interact Club. Before that, I didn't even know what Interact was.
Yeah.
But these 4 kids said they wanted to start an Interact Club, so I had to figure out what Interact was and how to help them start a club. And then after that, I became president the next year. So I figured out district grants. So I started getting a $3,000 a year district grant on top of the $3,000 I was getting from the auction each year. Plus, I had a $6,000 budget now because we had excess funds, so I could send 30 kids every year. The problem was I couldn't find 30 kids.
Yeah.
So we started branching out into other schools. In 2016, I picked up 2 kids from Afton, and Dylan Mishmash and Tuff Johnson, and they come to RYLA, the first 2 kids out of Afton, and they just come back to Afton and killed it.
Yeah.
I mean, they started Interact Club. They put 60 of 150 kids in their Interact Club. They were presidents for 2 years, so they started it as juniors. And they just did so many amazing projects. I mean, I seen them at nursing homes playing bingo with the nursing home kids. I seen them outside their school with notepads making notes of how many kids wore their seatbelt and how many kids were on their phone when they come into school. They did programs over seatbelt wearing and over distracted driving. They saw an 85% decrease in phone usage coming into school. They saw a 90% increase in seatbelt wearing coming into the school that year.
Oh, wow.
And, and after that, I just had a vision of where we could go. I mean, how many Interact Clubs could I get? How many different schools could I get?
Yeah.
And in 2015, I also sent a kid to RYLA from Miami, and his mom was a teacher in Welch. and Welch is not even in Ottawa County; it's in Craig County. And she called me in 2016, said, "Hey, I need my kids to go to that camp that my son went to."
Yeah.
And so I started sending kids out of Welch, and then we picked up kids out of Commerce and Quapaw and Fairland and Wyandotte. And well, Wyandott's the one school I haven't gotten any out of yet.
So
But
this past year for 23, how many of those schools did you send kids from?
I had all 7 Ottawa County schools except for Wyandotte, plus 2 Craig County schools of Welch and Blue Jacket.
Oh, that's remarkable. How many of those schools over time have initiated a Interact Club?
Well, currently we have 4 Interact clubs. The 2019 Welch group started the Interact Club, and the 2023 Fairland Lone Students started the Interact Club. And then I have my Blue Jacket girl that's trying to get it done. It's probably going to take a RYLA next year for her to get it done because she don't have enough kids there to believe in wanting to start a club with her. Same thing in Quapaw. I got a lone girl there that wants to start a club, but she's a lone ranger and she just can't get it done by herself. So they'll help recruit 3 or 4 more kids out of those schools in next year, and they're juniors this year, so they'll be able to get it done next year without a doubt.
You know, I throw out the number 2143. You know, since Tracy and I have had the opportunity to come into the fold and be able to support camp with 2,143 campers since 2012. Do you have in your mind? Do you know how many campers you've sent since you've come in as the RYLA chair?
With this last group I sent, I think we're at 172.
That's remarkable. So that's almost 10%, you know, in a district that's the largest district per square mile in the world globally. You know, I got to tell a story, and I'd be interested to know if you remember it, and I'm pretty sure you do. So not a lot of people know the beginnings of RYLA, and I say that how RYLA actually got to our district, because RYLA is a global program. However, some districts don't have a RYLA. And I remember you and we were presidents the same year. I was president of the Broken Arrow Club, and you were president of the Miami Club. And I remember you and I being at president-elect training over in Arkansas, and you and I standing in the back of the room, just having a casual conversation. You remember that casual conversation and having dinner with George Payton that night? Do you remember that?
I remember us talking. I don't remember the conversations at all, though.
Yeah. So I remember you and I stand in the back of the room, and so guy comes up and says, "Hey, do you guys want to have dinner with us?" Because, you know, you and I are both at the time, we're both pretty, you know, we are who we are, but yet we're not the screamer yellers, and we're also not political enough to go like have our group at that point where we were the cool kids in the room. We were still trying to figure things out. But I remember George Payton coming up and asking us to have dinner, and we sat down, and I remember, you know, so George Payton started RYLA in our district, and I was having a conversation with him probably 4 or 5 weeks back when Pam Crawford, our district governor, came and spoke at the downtown Tulsa club. He came, and I said, you know, it's crazy because he started RYLA with 6 kids going and doing high ropes at Chandler Park in Tulsa.
Wow.
And he was the superintendent of schools at Sand Springs Schools at that time. And so I think about the fact of like how many, for 6 kids, you could have said it's a money problem, but somebody had to take the first step. And I think there's a lot of first steps when it comes to RYLA. And I think, you know, you look at guys like you, and, you know, men and women that say, you know what, no, our kids, we have to figure this out because it's so much value for our kids. And if I can find the right kid, I know for a fact they'll have a great experience. I know for a fact they'll be, if I do something intentionally, I'll be able to get them back to go get me more. Tell me more about how, I mean, you almost 200 kids have come to camp. I mean, how are you finding success on getting kids? Because you started with 4, and then here we are at 30 plus a camper year. I mean, how are you getting more campers on a routine basis, or just how are you getting the campers you have allocated?
Hey, so this has just kind of evolved over time, and I think it was after the 2016 group that we started, or after the first 2016, we started bringing them back into a banquet, just like I saw in Tulsa with the downtown club with the Camp Enterprise. So we bring them into a banquet, and we invite their parents to come, and we have them stand at the front of the room and tell their stories and all that. And so I did that in 2016, and we did 2016 2.0, and I brought them into the banquet. I said, why don't I just ask these kids who they would send next year? So I gave each one of them a piece of papers, and on it said, are you interested in being a CIT next year? Are you interested in youth exchange? And are you interested? And if so, what 5 kids would you send to RYLA next year that are sophomores this year? In 2016, I think I sent 21 kids. And those 21 kids gave me about 35 names. And then I passed those names on to the school counselors and said, mark these out, mark any of them out that really don't need to go, and then add any of them that you need to add to it that should go. And I just got the buy-in from Miami right off the bat. I mean, I could send 24 kids from Miami every year because I try to limit it to a boy and a girl to each tribe, and we usually have 12 tribes, so I'd limit them to 24 kids. But I could send 24 kids from Miami every year just because it was ingrained. And obviously, COVID knocked that back down where we're going to build that back up. But in 2019, I sent 24 kids out of Miami High School. And then,
go ahead.
And then we just kept building on that. Each year, I'd ask the kids who they would send, and then I would go talk to school counselors and say, your school needs this. But by then we had an Interact club in Miami. We had an Interact club in Addington. Those 2 Interact clubs were feeding us kids.
Yeah.
Then when we picked up the Welch one is feeding us kids. And then Fairland sent 9 this year with their first year as the Interact club, And I tried Fairland for a long time. I couldn't get any kids to go, but luckily I ended up with a mishmash in Fairland, and it worked out for me.
Yeah. So it's whether it be, I mean, when I talk about this youth development pipeline, and I think you and I have had some of these conversations too, like dictionary, people do dictionaries and people do this, people do that. One thing that we have figured out, I believe, as a district really well, and some clubs more than others, and you're definitely one of those drivers for that, is Interact, RYLA, and then finding some success with youth exchange. I know. Tell me, what you've had. Miami's got a connection to youth exchange as well. Is that correct?
Well, what happened was in 2016 2.0, my son went to RYLA, and he was in a tribe with a very good-looking Brazilian girl. He said, Dad, I want to go to Brazil. I said, well, we don't have a youth exchange program, but if you want to exchange, I'll become the youth exchange officer, and I'll help you exchange, but I can't guarantee you can go to Brazil. Do you still want to do it?
Sure.
He said, yeah, I want to do it. And so we went to district interviews and all that with youth exchange. And they said, there's no way we're sending your son to Brazil. The laws are too lax. He's too wild. And we're going to send him to the middle of Europe where he can't get in trouble. And so they ended up sending him to Elda, Spain, which is right outside of Alicante. And he was there from August to June. And then he did that 7-country tour at the end of the year and just come home fully bilingual.
Wow.
And
a kid, that's the thing that I love about youth exchange is you get this kid from Miami, Oklahoma, right, that gets to get that experience and truly change his life forever. And then at the same time,
Absolutely.
you've got a kid that's got to come to Miami, Oklahoma, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, so I think we hear a lot in our district about the kid that goes outbound. Tell me about this inbound experience, because I mean, you had to figure out how to get host families there in Miami, and then you got to figure out how to get them to Scry. Like we got Scry coming up in a couple of weeks. I know I'm hosting them all on Saturday night at the YMCA for a lock-in. I did that last year, and we're doing it again this year. Won't get much sleep there on that Saturday night, but it'll be a good time had by all. Tell me about the inbound experience for the Miami club.
Okay, so the year my son went to Spain, obviously all the kids that are coming into our program, the clubs get to select which kids they want as long as they're still available. So my kid was going to Spain. I got the Spanish boy to come to our community. He was 15 when he got here. He turned 16 his first month here. So he was a young Spanish boy.
Yeah.
And, we found host families, and the first host family was bilingual, which helped him come along a lot because he didn't speak much English.
Gotcha.
And then his second host family actually flaked out on us, and we ended up having to find an emergency second host family, and we did.
Okay.
His name was Mike Barlow, and he graciously took him in, which ultimately led to his daughter exchanging 3 years later
Oh,
because
that's
she
awesome.
hosted that exchange student. But
That's
he
awesome.
just had a great time. And then my son thought he was going to come home and then go to Taiwan, but he couldn't learn the Chinese and he backed out. But we still got the Taiwanese boy to come to the United States, and we ended up with a kid named Nick, and he went to Fairland High School. And he did go to RYLA out of
Right.
Fairland High School, but he didn't tell nobody about it. And
Yeah.
he left the next year, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, and then, like I say, the young girl that hosted the first Spanish boy, she went out the year after that, and we brought in a Japanese girl. And then in 2022, or 2021, I went to Afton Interact meeting. I said, if you're interested in youth exchange, I want to help you exchange. And this young girl named Desiree Burris, she come up to me and said, I want to
Yeah.
exchange, Mike. And I said, where do you want to go? She goes, I want to go to Sweden. And I said, well, you need to follow this link, and I need your application here in a few weeks. And sure enough, I got an application, and sure enough, she went to Sweden.
That's awesome.
And just absolutely amazing. We got a Colombian boy. He come to Miami, and just great program, you know. And I've
So
struck out this
if you look at
struck out this
Interact,
year, but
and you look at Interact, you look at RYLA, you look at Youth Exchange. I mean, at the same time, you've had a couple careers, some moves career wise where, you took some leaps of faith, and along the way, I mean, you're a busy guy, like I had a
absolutely,
conversation about some with this the other day, like jokingly, like I do this 365 days a year if it paid. Like I mean, we would run a camp every week. We go around the nation and just run RYLA.
absolutely.
I have that much confidence in what we do, but I also know it fills my cup. Um, I mean, what keeps Mike saying yes?
Um, just to see what these kids can accomplish, you know. I mean, it blows my mind on how much they can accomplish if you give them the freedom to think outside the box. I saw three girls in Miami run a food bank for 3 years outside of a realty company that did it for the homeless. They put bottled water in there. They put snacks that the homeless could just walk by and pick up and eat. It wasn't a normal food bank. It was a homeless food bank. And I saw them keep it running for 3 years. I saw the Afton Interact Club do a mock wreck the week before prom. And they actually turned cars over in the parking lot. They painted their interactors up as injured. They brought in the ambulance and the fire, and they took the doors off a car with the jaws of life. They landed the helicopter on the football field, rolled the stretcher out, put somebody on the helicopter. They didn't take off with them, but then they bring the whole high school in, talk about drinking and driving and distracted driving and prom coming up the next week.
Yeah,
Just the impact they made on those kids, though, with what they did was just amazing.
yeah,
And then, you know, just like this last year, the Fairland Interact Club was brand new, and Afton, his dad is the teacher sponsor for the Afton Interact
yeah.
Club. They have a contest of who can raise the most shoe boxes for Operation Christmas Child. And Dennis's parents donate two shoe boxes. He gives them to his son to say, I'm going to give you a fair chance in this contest. And his son beats him by those two boxes. But still, yet they send 63 boxes overseas for Operation Christmas Child out of two little podunk schools in the middle of Oklahoma.
That's awesome.
You
What do
know, I
you
mean,
when you look at the future, when you look at leadership in general, what's gonna keep Mike coming back, and as we kind of tie this up, what's gonna keep you coming back, and what do you think at the same time is, I mean, what's something that, if Mike's gonna leave a message with people and leave an impression with people when it comes to RYLA, what's it got to be?
um, you know, you just change your schools if you'll send your kids. I mean, it's that simple. And you know, I don't know, it's just so much there. It's the team building. It's the trust fall for me. It's the wall for me. It's the all those things that build this team. And I had a young girl in 2015 that went to OU that roomed all 4 years at OU with one of her tribe mates from RYLA.
God, that's
That's how
awesome.
strong those connections are. And I tell parents all the time, you know, right now your kid has 3 or 4 really close friends. And if those 3 or 4 friends all want to go to one school, your child is going to feel obligated to go to that one school
Yeah,
with those 3 or 4 kids. So if your kid goes to RYLA, there's going to be 26 kids that they're really close friends with going to 13 different schools. And if they want to go to any school out there, they're going to have a friend at that school when they get there.
yeah,
And, you know, and I see how many chiefs and CITs I've had and the way that those kids are growing. And, you know, I'm pretty sure that Dylan Mishmash at some point is going to become a Rotarian. And I'm pretty sure that she's going to pay this forward many times over somewhere down the road when she gets out of school. And, you know, and all these things are leading to future Rotarians that are hopefully not just going to be old men sitting in a room eating lunch, but they're making a
yeah,
difference in their communities, you know. I know for me, it keeps my eyes open on how I can make an impact because that's the message we preach there, make an impact.
yeah,
You know, I go to the Rotary International Convention in Houston, and we go to Papados to eat after one of the sessions, and they're on a wait, and it's just me and the Robinson lady from Fort Smith, you know, and it's just the two of us, and they say, "Your table's ready." And these two colorful ladies walk in the room, and they say, they tell them it'd be 45 minutes. I said, "Hey, you ladies want to eat with us? We're going to be seated right now." They said, "Sure." Well, we sat down. One's from Nigeria and one's from Uganda. And me and this lady from Uganda get to talking, and we figure out next year she's going to be president of her club. I said, "Do you have any projects that we could probably help you with?" She said, "Well, I'd like to build rain buckets for this girls' school so they can shower when they're on their menstrual cycle." I said, "Well, let's keep in touch and maybe we can help you with that project." Well, the president before her got that done. And when she come up, I said, "Do you have any other projects you want to do?" She said, "I'd like to build a couple of water harvest tanks for this hospital in Kasero, Uganda, which is 8 hours away from where she is, but it's in a low water region." I said, "Can you get a contractor to give us a quote of what it'll cost to build those water harvest tanks," is what they call them.
yeah.
And so she got the quote, and it was 10.1 million Ugandan dollars, which equated to 2,700 American dollars, you know.
Yeah,
I said, "How about we do a 2-to-1 match? We'll send you 1,800, you do 900. We'll build 2 water harvest tanks for this hospital," and we did it. But without me going to Ryland, without me preaching, making an impact to all these schools, I probably would have never stepped outside of my comfort zone to eat dinner with those 2 people I didn't know.
yeah.
And
I think most people think call it what it is. You mentioned it. A lot of people, Rotary's a check writing organization for. And if I hadn't have sat down next to Wallace Williams at a Rotary Club meeting and said, "Hey, tell me more about that," I probably would just be having lunch. And honestly, I'm not going to waste my time. I probably wouldn't be going. I still want to make a difference. And I know Mike Addington wants to make a difference. I know Mike Addington is an investor, but you want to invest somewhere where you can see the product because you're not, you know, you're somebody that wants to see the process through. You know, that's your occupation is the same kind of path, right? You want to, you don't just want to start it. You need to see the full experience. And
right,
I I want you to know that I absolutely feel um, we know nothing happens just on happenstance, and I know that Mike Addington's put uh, in your county and in your region, and honestly in our district and on this planet to do something, and you get a chance, and you do exactly what that is. And I joked like, what keeps Mike saying yes? Um, you've had a lot of great experiences, and I think that's why you keep coming back. And I know that's why I keep coming back is people. You're one of those people that I look forward to every chance I get it, maybe just in passing, like, hey, I gotta we need notebooks for camp, and Mike's dropping off notebooks, and like, all right, man, hey, I'll see you when we see you. But I know I have a great deal of confidence in the fact that Mike wants you want what's best for everyone, and you'll do what it takes to invest in those kids.
This is
More
your notebooks right here for your next 4 years, man.
More notebooks. Yeah, I just absolutely believe that we have people are put in our lives for a reason. And those 170 plus kids in your area are better because a Rotarian looked at you and said yes. You said yes. Not it's a money problem. You said yes, let's figure it out. And we're so blessed to have to have you as a part of our team. I can't think of doing it. There's a lot of people that say, hey, I want to help, and then it gets down to it, and I'm looking at a group of people that I consistently see in front of us that are right there alongside us in the fight. You're one of those people that I know I'm going to count on you. I know you're going to be there. And I know our staff think the world of you. Our leadership team think the world of you. And I just appreciate you giving me your time here. And I also know that if anybody's watching this and they have questions about anything we've talked about, I also 110% know that you'll be a resource for anybody that wants to reach out to you. So
absolutely. I mean, the clubs really need to take note of how much this has impacted our club, in the fact that we have 4 Interact clubs, that we have 4 youth exchange students, that it's not just RYLA, it's what RYLA produces for our club. We've had 17 CITs, we've had 7 chiefs, we've had all these things, and these kids are growing up to be leaders. And, I just thank you for what you do and just giving us the opportunity to bring these kids to a camp that I can trust that the camp is going to produce what I believe it can produce, no matter how many kids I bring.
Yeah. Well,
and I really
the thing. You started before. It only takes one. There's clubs that don't send any kids, and I can tell you, it takes one. That's all it takes.
Absolutely. And I learned something this year. I was always trying to keep my Miami kids separate. And I had 3 of them in the same tribe this year. And I realized that none of the 3 knew each other, even though they went to the same school. And they just become best friends. And they parked right across from each other in the parking lot. 2 girls, they parked right across from each other in the school, and they had never talked to each other.
Wow.
So I'm just not going to be prohibitive on how many kids I can send from one school anymore, because they just don't know each other.
Yeah.
Well, maybe the smaller schools, it's not that way, but in the bigger schools, it's definitely that way.
Yeah, 100%. I 100% agree. Zoom's going to kick us off here because we have officially taken our full time.
All right. Thank you, Matt, so much for this time, man.
No, hey, I want you to know that I want you to know, I want everybody else to know that, again, if there's anything that we can do, Mike, myself, any of our team, to support connecting with your clubs, connecting with your school, connecting with your leadership, whatever it may be, we want to help. Mike, you're awesome. I appreciate you. You guys have a great Sunday when this will air. It's going to be cold, Mike and I know that. But have a phenomenal Sunday, a phenomenal weekend, and stay blessed.